Beyond victimization. When something terrible has happened to us, how can we move beyond victimization? What I want to suggest to you is we have to hold two different levels simultaneously. The first level is the human level, and the second level is the soul level. And if someone comes into me and they feel like they're a victim of something, I choose simultaneously to hold them in both, which is the hardest thing in the world to do. On a human level, if someone has been a victim of something, you have to hold them in their humanness. So eventually they can move beyond confusion or terror or rage or despair to grief. Because ultimately grief is the ultimate resolution of victimization. Because when there's been victimization, you have to let go of certain things, often your dreams. And in order to do that, you have to grieve. But even that doesn't totally resolve the problem, because still, even if you're held in the most human of ways, you were still a victim. So if you really want to move beyond victimization, you have to hold another level entirely, which we'll call the soul level. And on the soul level, once you've met someone on the human level, there's only one question you can ask, which is, how does this serve? Now, we may never know the answer to how something serves because it may be beyond our limited human comprehension. But if you start with the idea that everything serves life, even those things that are the worst things we can imagine, on one level they're serving life, then we could say, teach me, how is this serving? From the most personal levels to the most collective levels. And what I think you will generally find at that point is you're trying to heal something that we might call some kind of karma. And when there's something that we couldn't heal because we couldn't handle it and integrate it, life will send us new opportunities for healing and growth. But these things that lead to healing and growth often are things that we don't like very much, because they're echoes of the original thing we couldn't heal, until ultimately we aren't identified with anything. And then we can move from being the one who is judging, or who is feeling like a victim, or is comparing, or is feeling anxiety, to the one who can simply say yes. The best exemplar of that, of course, in Western culture is Jesus moving to Christ. Because Jesus, of course, before he's crucified, is saying to God, why hast thou forsaken me? He hasn't ultimately seen the bigger picture. But when he moves to Christ and he's no longer identified with anything, he can say, I see a bigger picture. I see that life right now is calling for a sacrifice on some level to open the hearts of men. And when he says, forgive them for they don't know what they're doing, all he's saying is they're blind to a bigger picture, really. But once I've known this, once I can feel it, once I'm engaged in it, once I am that bigger picture, nothing can hurt me because I can't be a victim anymore. I'm now a creation and a creator. And when we know that, we move from living life of fate, where we feel things happen to us, to a life of destiny. And we see that the whole process and the destination ultimately move from being two separate things in a competitive collaboration to being one thing, where they're totally unified. So, when you feel like a victim, my invitation to you is, see if you can move from confusion, terror, rage, despair, to grief. And once you've held yourself and can grieve, then ask, how are you serving? And just open to whatever life reveals to you. I'd love to know how it goes. Thank you for listening.